Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of the Roaring Agents podcast. Today I'm here with John Steele of Team Steele San Diego Homes. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Mike.
One of the reasons I wanted to have you is you are a younger agent. You got to start in your early 20s, correct?
Yep. Yeah, like mid 20s. Yep.
Okay. And I just wanted to kind of hear, you moved, I believe it was across the country, started in a brand new city,
Yep.
and now you have a very successful, thriving real estate business. So can you tell me how you got your start in real estate?
Yeah, I can. I guess starting back, I did relocate here from upstate New York, Buffalo specifically. My wife and I, we had jobs working corporate jobs back there, just didn't really like, cube life and all that. And I'd always had the ambition, growing up in upstate New York, I always kind of had the ambition to go somewhere else, and get outside. And we decided to take a trip to California, ended up falling in love with California and realized like that's the place we wanted to be. So we basically just quit our jobs and up and left. We took like a 7-week road trip across the country, ended up in San Diego with no jobs and just trying to figure it out. And I ended up, I had been applying to like banking jobs because that's what my previous role had been. But ended up finding like a real estate assistant job, and I made $12 an hour, which was a huge pay cut for me. But I was working 2 blocks from the beach. I wore shorts and flip flops, and I would eat my lunch on the beach. And I learned a lot. Like I started out as a real estate assistant, just helping other agents out with their business, doing a lot of back end stuff. Eventually, I got pulled over to the brokerage I was working with, kind of like sister company. They were investor who flipped homes. So I worked in their office for about a year, and they were one of the biggest investors in the San Diego market. They still are. They would do about 100 to 150 projects a year. So I really, between the assistant role and working for them, I honestly learned a ton. Not only on the retail side but the investing side as well. And after some time doing that, I kind of looked around and saw everybody being successful, and I was like, why aren't we doing this for ourselves? My wife Melissa and we worked as a team. We ended up getting our license together. We started our business together. I had actually quit my job the week before our wedding, and we basically started our business with the money that was gifted to us from our wedding. Neither one of us had any jobs when we got married. So yeah, we went, we took a very risky approach, a very ballsy approach. But it paid off. I think I think our first year was 2015. So I guess this is going to be our 7th year. So yeah, it's been a wild ride. Lots of challenges, lots of growth, lots of learning. But yeah, very grateful for, the success we've had and the journey, honestly.
So I started as a real estate assistant myself. And so I had that under my belt my first year. And I always suggest to people, if you can,
Mm-hmm.
get that start, because that groundwork, and it takes the pressure off too. When you're just
Mm-hmm.
kind of helping someone else get something done, it's just not the same as trying to figure out the contract, or, it's kind of like building the wings as you're falling,
Yeah.
and when I walked out my first year as an assistant, I mean, my job was to do 4 or 5 CMAs a day. I had
Mm-hmm.
to take care of their paperwork and all that. And so when I walked out, I had, and they were co-rookies of the year. I feel like I had about 5 years experience. And so I was so far ahead of the curve. So that definitely helps. So San Diego, $12 an hour, that's, San Diego's not a cheap place. You
No.
are adventurous to go there and, do that. But how did you pick San Diego?
Honestly, it was more of just like a California in general. And because we were coming here with no jobs, basically our number one priority when we got here was to find jobs. And we were basically between, the 3 biggest cities of California: San Fran, LA, and San Diego. And while San Diego is not cheap, it's the cheapest out of those three options.
Right.
So that's kind of where we started. Honestly, I had the intention of hopefully landing in San Fran initially. That was really the city that I was like excited about, in love with. But basically, after being here for a few weeks, I remember my wife actually asking me, like, how many jobs have you applied to in San Fran? And like, I was like, none. Like, I mean, I was basically like February. I had come from Buffalo, and it was like February, March, and we were hanging out on the beach, and I was like, this is pretty nice. Like, I don't think I want to go to San Fran anymore. So, San Diego, I mean, it's a city that sucks you in. It's very hard not to love this city. The weather is, you just can't beat the weather.
San Francisco is a lot colder.
Yeah,
It's
for
not
sure.
typical California as far as what in beaches and everything.
Yeah. Still warmer than Buffalo though.
That's that's true. So, so you were bold, you quit your job, you got married, and you're like, here we go. So how
Yep.
did you get started?
So kind of like most agents, just throwing mud at the wall, for a bit. Um, I think reflecting back on it, we basically stepped out on our own, both my wife and I, kind of starting our own business, our own team. It was definitely like the most uphill approach we could have taken, but obviously the biggest payoff as well. I kind of reflect back, like, if I was to do things differently, I mean, obviously having the success I have now, like I would do it all again, but I almost wonder if it would have been more beneficial to like start on a team or something. Cause I mean, the first the first 2 years, I mean, they were pretty brutally hard, challenging. We had gotten married in July, and then we had started our business basically um, kind of in like August of 2015. We were able to do, I think, one or two deals kind of early on. They weren't big or anything, but it was great to kind of get a few deals under our belt. But we started out 2016. We're really big into goal setting. I think it's been a big part of our growth in our business. And in 2016, basically kind of our first full year of business, we had set the goal that we wanted to make $100,000 and or sell 16 homes. And by June, we had sold one home. So we were definitely way off the pace. And we, at that point too, I mean, with both of us not having jobs, real estate was our only income. And, I vividly remember we had a post-it note on our fridge where like, if we didn't start closing deals like by this date, like we would very realistically have to like reevaluate, what we're doing, potentially get jobs, stuff like that. So we were very much coming down to the wire, but we stayed super, super consistent. The first year, that 2016, the first full year of our business, we did 100 open houses. So we were doing, that was our main lead generation source. As I kind of touched on when we first got started, we definitely threw mud at the wall. I mean, we did, Zillow leads and this and mailers and this and that, and basically just spent a bunch of money with no results. Where 2016, we really decided like, we're going to focus on open houses. That's going to be our thing. It was nice because it was both my wife and I working together. So doing open houses with two people is definitely, easier than one. And it was a great opportunity for us to like really hone our skills, meet people face to face, build that confidence, field questions and stuff that people answer. They'll throw you all kinds of curveballs. So I feel like it was a great way to kind of like throw ourselves in. And we would do typically like 4 open houses a weekend. So we would do what were called double doubles. We would do like typically like 9 to 12 on Saturday and Sunday morning, and then from like 1 to 4 on Saturday and Sunday afternoon. So yeah, we were very, very busy, but we stayed super consistent. And like I said, we only had closed one deal by June, but then for the next 6 months, we closed, I think it was 17 deals within the next 6 months. So we ended up actually surpassing our goal, even though halfway through the year, we were not even remotely close to achieving that.
How much of
So yeah,
that
that was kind of, what's
how
that?
much of that was from the open houses, do you think?
I mean, the majority really, I don't think we really had much of another lead source. Cause the other thing too, I mean, we had come to the city, we didn't know anyone. So we didn't have friends or family or anyone that was looking to buy. So we pretty much just had to generate, all the leads ourselves. And after that initial kind of first couple months and stuff where we were doing those, like we stopped, we haven't paid for leads, since then. We've done some mailers and stuff here and there, but we really chose to kind of like hone in on the open houses and stuff, and that's really what built our business. The following year, 2017, we didn't do 100 open houses. Our goal was honestly to not do that many. We did do like 50 though, so we were still on a pretty good pace. Since then, we've definitely shifted away from open houses more. I mean, especially with COVID, obviously we can't be doing them right now. I still personally enjoy them. I'm not doing them these days to necessarily like hit the ground running and hustle and like search for clients. It'd be more just, getting exposure and farming neighborhoods and, trying to get more listings and stuff like that. But I still think open houses are a fantastic way for, people to build their business. It's definitely, it's not for everyone. Some people like cold calling, some people like door knocking. I mean, we kind of were speaking on it before we, started going live, but, there's no right or wrong way to build your business with real estate. And I think it's really important, especially for newer agents, to find like a prospecting, path that they enjoy. We tried cold calling early in our business, and we got a couple appointments and stuff. But what I realized very early on is like I absolutely hated it, and like maybe I would close a deal or something, but like, is that the business I want to build? Like, do I want to be
Yes.
doing that every day? Whether it makes me money or not, like I don't necessarily want to be doing that if I'm not enjoying it. So but again, that's nothing to, not to fault anybody who loves cold calling. I have plenty of colleagues that crush it doing that and they love it, and that's their thing and it works for them. So yeah.
What I always say is that the only reason to be in real estate is to live the best life you can. And slogging through calls, if that's not your thing, is horrible. Doing open
Hmm.
houses, if you do not want to spend your Sunday,
Yeah.
taking signs here and there. Now, San Diego, I wouldn't mind taking signs everywhere because that just seems
Yeah.
lovely versus
We
the wet
definitely,
of Portland.
yeah. I mean, honestly, my wife and I have talked about that so much. Like I said, we came from upstate New York. I mean, I think back to like the agents there, and I'm like, man, I don't know how they do it. Cause like, yeah, I mean, we have a huge advantage here. Like, I could probably count on my hands the number of times like it's rained during open houses. Like, it's just we're very lucky with that, like it makes it easier for sure.
You've almost sold me on moving. Um, so you've kind of gotten away from open houses a little bit. So does that mean you've started to get a lot of repeat business?
Yeah, we definitely have. I mean, it took some time. And we were, I would say, starting out very, very heavy on the buy side. The first couple of years, I mean, we were very heavily skewed on the buy side. We've definitely started to even out more in the last year or so. Referrals have started picking up, repeat business started picking up. But the biggest thing for us was, when we finally kind of like started getting some traction from the open houses and the business, that we were doing, we basically just reinvested like all of that back into our business. We realized very early on that like it's not necessarily sustainable for us to be doing like 50, 100 open houses a year. Like it's great when you're young, right, and you can do it. But I mean, we were running on empty for a while. I mean, we were like really pushing hard, and we realized, early on that really we wanted to get, the goal was to shift us having to chase after people for business and try to get people to come to us for business. So after that first year, we really started dumping like a lot of money into our website and SEO, search engine optimization, building content, stuff like that. And the goal was to try and, get people to find us online, reach out to us, stuff like that. So that's been kind of our consistent, we kind of talked about like building the beast. That's kind of been like in our background and what we've put a lot of energy towards. Like instead of paying for Zillow ads and stuff like that, it's really been investing in growing that website and stuff. And that's one of our biggest lead sources today is like our website, our online reviews. My wife does a lot with social media and stuff like that. So kind of like our whole online, sphere. And as young people starting out, I mean, that's where we really saw the opportunity. And we spend a lot of time online, social media and stuff like that. So that's really kind of like our tagline is kind of like the next generation of real estate. And our goal was to really try and capture, millennials ourselves, as they're coming up, hitting the home buying age. Obviously we work with, older people as well, but really focusing on that online presence and stuff like that.
I meant to ask you your open houses. That sounds like pretty good conversion rate. I know you had 100, but still that was like a 6-month period where you put on 17 deals. What's your method that you feel works to convert at an open house?
Yeah, great question. And honestly, so starting out, our conversion wasn't, I mean, it gets better, like we definitely, like doing open houses today, I mean, we're much more likely to convert people quicker, faster, realize who's wasting time, stuff like that. So, but starting out, I mean, we didn't necessarily have the luxury. Well, one, we didn't really know what we were doing. And two, we didn't necessarily have the luxury of being like, oh, this person's, a waste of time, like move on to the next. I mean, we really basically hit, like, if you came into our open house, like you were pretty much guaranteed that you were going to be, getting emails from us, getting phone calls from us, like we would be following up. But as far as our strategy, we really took, so I had worked for that investor company that I had touched on earlier. So I had a great relationship with them when I stepped into being an agent. I still worked for their brokerage, and really they had a consistent flow of like remodeled homes that were nice and vacant. So a lot of times we would start out by basically holding their homes open. It gave us a really nice like product to kind of show, brand new remodeled homes that we were basically able to show off. And so we would focus on single family homes. I mean, we would definitely do some condos and townhomes, but really only if single families were not available. We just found, based on our results, that it's a lot harder to drive traffic to a condo or a townhome versus a single family home. We would find, hopefully ones that had just listed or had been listed within like the last week or so. Try not to do any older listings. I mean, ideally you want to be the first weekend, if possible. Granted, they're not our listings though, so it's kind of, it's more just like up to the agent whether, we can hold them or not. Because at the time, I mean, we didn't have any listings. It was simply just us asking other agents, can we hold your houses open? Which, a lot of agents that are doing business and most open, at a time. So a lot of times they appreciate that. But yeah, we would, we would market them on social media. Obviously, like tucked back, 25 turns from the main road, on a dead end street where like, the thing is, I mean, once we got people into the open house, I mean, 100%, like the main focus is getting them to sign in, getting information. I think it's pretty shocking to me, the amount of like, open houses I would go into as an agent, and then like, seeing agents who just like there's really no point in doing an open house if you're just kind of sitting there letting people come to and like, just come in and out. So we would focus on, getting contact information, obviously, and we were pretty good at it. Like I know a lot of people say, they have a hard time getting people sign in. I mean, I would say on average, we were probably getting 80% or more of people signing in.
How do you think you got that when everyone else is having trouble?
I don't know. I mean, we had our sign-in sheets, we had our little setup with the flyers and all that stuff. And I mean, we would usually, like, our kind of typical thing is, we wouldn't even necessarily ask them to sign in like immediately or anything. It was more, as they were going around the house, once they got to the area where sign-in stuff was, like usually our thing was like, and if you wouldn't mind signing in as well, the sellers or the listing agent or whoever, they like to keep track of who's coming through, and, just very like nonchalant. And a lot of times, I mean, we would get it. And, if people didn't, we would try and follow up with them at the end, but we were never going to push it. Like, I'm never going to be like, you have to sign in. Like, that's ultimately, if you're kind of pushing it like that, you're probably not going to convert that lead anyway. But, with getting the sign-ins, I mean, every single one of them went into our CRM. When we were first starting out, I mean, we were following up with, when we were doing 4 open houses in a weekend, we would follow up with every single lead that we got by either Sunday night or Monday morning. So that was like our main thing. Call, text, email, whatever we had. When we were in the open house, if we were able to like strike up a conversation or get them talking at all, basically as soon as they left, we would flip over their sign-in sheet and write down as much as we could remember about, what they talked about, to try and, kind of tap into, like, basically show that we're listening and we're engaged, and, ultimately we want to support them as best we can. So yeah, that was kind of our open house strategy. Like I said, we haven't done an open house probably in almost a year now with COVID. So yeah.
And is the business still flowing pretty well?
Yeah, honestly, we have like more leads probably than we know what to do with. I mean, that's something too that's always, learning to scale and learning to grow. We had grown our team to a couple agents. A couple agents, stepped away from our team last year. We still have, it's me, my wife. We have a full-time like agent under us, and then we recently brought on kind of like a showing assistant to kind of help us, because honestly, this market is moving so fast that it's hard to even. I mean, properties are hitting the market, and you pretty much have to see them within like 72 hours. So we brought on someone to kind of help us just get people into things as fast as possible.
So speaking of just the market, obviously the news is, talking about all the craziness. And one of the things they're talking about is everyone's leaving California. So what is your experience in the San Diego area?
I mean, there's definitely people leaving, but I'm not seeing this big exodus or anything that people are talking about. I mean, the market is hotter than I've ever personally seen it. Certainly not what I was expecting to be, when last February, March, when COVID was kicking off. I was not expecting that this is where we would be today. I mean, it's, there's just no inventory. I mean, that's the bottom line of it. There's so many more buyers for each property. And we're seeing more and more, aggressive offers. I mean, we had a client write an offer the other day, 100K over ask, no inspection contingency, no appraisal contingency. They didn't even get countered. So yeah, it's turning, and it's talking to some colleagues and stuff up in San Francisco, that I've heard that that's kind of how the market's been like for a while there. So I always tell people, nobody has a crystal ball, but I personally, I mean, I don't see this stopping. I think it's going to keep going really for, the foreseeable future. And, there's definitely buyers out there who are, hesitating. Am I buying at the top or stuff like that? I mean, my wife and I mean, we're thinking about buying right now. I personally don't think we're at the tops, but who knows?
As someone who went through the Great Recession, what I tell people, and just to give you a little, since you got in after that, the big difference between now and then was the amount of equity that the average person
Mm-hmm.
has in their home is dramatically
Yep.
higher. The lack of inventory is dramatically
Mm-hmm.
lower. Basically, a lot of areas, Portland really did, but I assume your area too, they just stopped building during the
Yeah.
Great Recession.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't stop having babies. People didn't stop moving here. So in Portland, we were behind about 22 housing units a year for 5 years. Haven't heard the number in the last few years, but we're still behind. So unless there's a mass exodus, there's no reason to think that that's going to change. Also the mortgage availability index at the
Mm-hmm.
worst was 800. I don't really understand what that number entails, but the number is now 152. Back
Mm-hmm.
in 2005 and 6, if you could fog up a mirror, you got a loan. Now it is so much harder. So for all those things, also the Fed did in 18 days what they did in 18 months back in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
So all these things have been put into place. That's why interest rates are lower. They're not going to raise those interest rates. So everything that I'm seeing, barring something really crazy, like a third pandemic, whatever, I don't know, I just don't see why we would have flat or decreasing prices in any place that's desirable. I think some
Yeah.
places that have grown, Las Vegas is supposed to be iffy, and there's a few
Hmm.
places like that where they're just the way they're built. And Vegas is a weird animal anyway. People, it's like
Hmm.
50-50 in and out all the time.
Yeah.
So I just really don't see any factors that would have us in a declining or even flat market for the next 2 to 3 years. So
Yeah, for
some
sure.
ammunition for you and anyone else listening that they're not really sure how to explain to others why we
Yeah.
shouldn't have. And that's the other thing is 3 out of the last 5 recessions, prices actually went up.
Hmm.
The Great Recession is so new or so recent, everyone thinks that's what happens. Prices
Yeah.
just drop. And even that one that the price did go down, it was like 1%. That was an
Yeah.
anomaly, and looking back to that hinders us from actually moving forward. So that's, I'll
Yeah.
get off my soapbox.
No, I mean, well, I mean, even if you see, even if we were to see a little bit of a drop, I mean, looking at the past, since 2008, I mean, the amount of growth is just crazy. I mean, I've been in, this business now 6 years, 6+ years as an agent. And I remember meeting people at some of my first open houses that were talking about waiting for the market to come down. And like, I mean, geez, they could have thrown an overpriced offer at any single house that they wanted to back then and still would have worked out great for them,
Yeah.
if they had pulled the trigger. So yeah.
And that's one of the things I'm advising people right now is people are getting kind of hung up. I don't want to go over list price. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, list price is arbitrary.
Yeah.
Second of all, this is more of an auction situation. You wouldn't go onto
Hmm.
eBay and go, well, it was 5 cents. Why would I bid more than 5 cents?
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
comes down to is what is it worth for you? And this is where that price becomes an anchor, and it's messing with some people where the other people
Hmm.
are like, I know this. There's a lot of people coming from California up here and they're
Yep.
going, oh, that's a deal. I'll buy that. Just like if I
Yeah.
went to North Carolina or somewhere. So,
Hmm.
um, so you work with your wife. How is that to work with your spouse? That sometimes that's fraught
Yeah.
with danger and sometimes it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say overall it's amazing. I mean, there are pros and cons for sure. There's certainly we have our moments, just as I'm sure any married couple does. But I mean, it's we started our business together, and it's really all that we've known. And I mean, I'm grateful for it. I get to I love my wife. I get to spend a lot of time with her. We obviously are both very passionate about real estate. I would say we probably talk about real estate too much. It's kind of one of those things that's it's hard to turn off. We'll pull a 12-hour day and, we're like, all right, no more real estate. And then, text message comes through or an email and you're like, oh, did you see we got that, they got whatever it is. And then you're stuck back in. So, I mean, definitely something we need to continue to work on is like the work-life balance. For sure the first few years, I mean, it was basically non-existent, but as we've hit our success, kind of hit our stride, we've been definitely making more efforts to find that balance, and stuff like that. And I mean, we work really well together. Me and my wife, we're very different from each other. We have very different skill sets, I would say. I mean, we're both very confident and knowledgeable in real estate. We can both, 100% navigate a client. And we do have some clients that kind of end up being exclusively one or the other. It just naturally happens that way. But um, she had her, she can play off. She has things that I can't offer, and vice versa. Like especially starting out, like I'm very much more like the technical analysis, contracts, like back front end bubbly. She jokes, with people that the therapy comes free. She's kind of like the therapist that's, coaching people off the emotional cliff. And it works well too. Like, there's some times where we're working with a couple or, different, sometimes just different people have a different way of like communicating. So like, there's been times where I'm on the phone with the husband or the wife, explaining things, and she's on the phone with the other one, like trying to talk them through like in, different ways. So it's been great for us. I mean, I really enjoy it. Like I said, definitely some challenges and stuff, but it's been great overall.
That's awesome. I've seen a lot of couples. I've seen that work out and I've seen it not work out. And when it works, it's just amazing because it is compounding. Um,
Yeah.
not effort, but results. Just because
Yeah.
you have your own language, you have your own, you know what's going on. You're not out of the loop, and so it's so easy to take over for those situations. Because yeah, sometimes one
Hmm.
person's better for the situation than the other. So
Yeah.
that's
And
fantastic.
I mean, honestly, the emotional support too. I mean, as you probably know, this business can, kick you when you're down, like literally run you over with a freight truck and then light you on fire. I mean, and so like to have someone there as well, like they speak language, they know what's up. Like it's definitely helpful because I mean, I certainly don't think that I would be, where I am today if it wasn't for us working as a team.
I love that. I get a lot of newer agents that listen to the podcast. What advice do you have for them?
You say what advice? You cut out for
For
just a second.
what advice would you give newer agents?
Yeah, great question. So I always tell, newer agents and people who are kind of like considering real estate, I feel like you really have to love it. Like you have to really love homes, like love, you know, the whole thing, because it can very easily consume your life. And I feel like it's one of those things where if you don't have a passion for it, I feel like it's going to be hard to kind of keep pushing even when you get, dragged through the mud and all that stuff. But as far as starting out, I think it's really, most agents get caught up just like I did, kind of just throwing mud at a wall. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to try everything. I think it's really important to focus on like one or two things and really, really invest in that and focus in that and get good at that before you try to step into other things. Because it's going to be very, very hard to succeed if you're trying to door knock, do mailers, cold call, hold open houses, you know, build every social media platform that there is, like build a YouTube, channel. It's just going to be very hard to do all that and learn the business. The other thing too is like, not only do you have to build your lead funnels and your channels, but like you actually have to learn how to sell real estate. So I think it's really important to like, and kind of going back to and have whatever that prospecting technique or whatever you're building, have it be something that you enjoy as well. So like really focusing on something that you can, learn not only the skills as far as like generating business, but learn the actual skills of like selling homes and interacting with people and, overcoming challenges and objections and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of agents really don't know what they're getting into when they get their
Yeah,
license. And I see
the
this a lot.
majority of them.
I see a lot of it online. I got my license, now what? Oh
Hmm.
God. You're in for
Yeah.
some interesting times.
And that's
Well,
too, I think, where, kind of like you said, I think like starting as an agent or an assistant for an agent, like that helped me so much because I kind of got to see what agents were doing. It wasn't as much of a guessing game of like, what do I do now? It was like, okay, this was what the agent who was doing the most business in the office was doing. So copy that. And that's another thing too. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like people think you have to come up with all these crazy new, shiny special things. I mean, just like basically look at what other agents are doing and copy them. you know?
replicate and duplicate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way that I see it, there's basically 6 prospecting paths. Figure out which one that you can wake up every day and look forward
Hmm.
to. If you're waking up
Yep.
every day going, oh God, I have to do this
Yeah.
thing, you will find every other thing more important. I literally took boiling water to kill some moss on my patio, then do my taxes one day. I just didn't want to go do it. So it's amazing what the brain will find. And that's what you'll
Yeah.
do if you hate calls or you hate door knocking, whatever. So find the
Hmm.
thing and do it at a high level.
Yeah. And
Well,
I think too, like having a focus on improving too, right? Because like
yeah.
a lot of times, I mean, you can hold 100 open houses, but if you're not learning how to talk to people, if you're not learning how to get people to sign in, if you're not following up, like if you're not actively working on honing your skills, like that's a waste of time too. Like it's making sure that not only are you kind of choosing one or two things to focus on and really like build on, it's also like as you're doing it, make sure you're evaluating yourself on what's working and what's not working.
I would did some open house tours. I just wanted to see how everyone else was doing it.
Hmm.
And it was funny. There were some people I barely knew they were there. One
Yep.
guy just kind of popped out. Oh, hey, come on in.
Yeah.
And I walked through there. He
As he's
never,
eating his lunch or something.
yeah, he wasn't engaging me, nothing. And you're right. Look, I am not an open house guy. That wasn't my thing because I was more of a listing agent. And um, so I was probably a little, I'm going to be friendlier than that. But I was there because the seller wanted me there, and I felt like I
Hmm.
had to. But you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. If you're not there to lead generate, there's no value. The NAR statistic is 0.5% of homes are sold
Yeah.
through an open house. So if you did one
Yeah.
every weekend for 4 years, you'd sell one house. And I did.
And
I sold one.
I was gonna say that sounds about right for me because out of, I mean, we've probably done 250 plus open houses, and over the years, maybe a little bit less. I'm not sure exactly. We did keep track of everything. I mean, we would keep track of the address, the time frame that we would do it, how many people came in. So we really we're honing in on when's the best time to do it, what day's the best time, all different stuff like that. But out of all the open houses we've done, only one time has someone come in uh, and without an agent, especially, and like wrote an offer with us, and so it's only happened once. So yeah, it's not ever the intention to really sell that house. It's to get in front of people and build your business for sure.
Well, I really appreciate your time with me today. I hope people got some of the nuggets that I saw in this. How can they find you if they want to connect and send you some referrals?
Yeah, you can find us all over the internet. Team Steel San Diego Homes. We have a website, steelsandiegohomes.com. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. Like I said, my wife does a lot of the social media. And if you want to give us a call, 619-887-4429. And feel free to, email us. We're always here and happy to help, other agents too. Like I said, we're an open book, happy to share, the quote unquote secrets.
All right. Well, I really appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye.